Fed up with potholes? I bet you are. I know you are. We all are. I've just driven to the Pembrokeshire coast from East Riding of Yorkshire, and it's potholes all the way. 250 miles of rough roads and potholes. We have a village road in from the north here, and it's impassable in winter. It's absolutely hopeless. Now, why have we got all these potholes? Well, it's because our roads have been simply neglected for years, and this year we have less spent on road maintenance than we've had in the last 10 years. And of course, as always, the government pleads poverty. They plead they don't have any money, but of course this isn't true. This isn't true. They're lying, of course, as governments always do. They raise £32 billion a year from motorists. £32 billion a year. That's in vehicle excise duty, that's on petrol tax, that's on VAT on petrol. Yes, it's double taxed. They raise 32 billion, of which they spend less than half, and if you added VAT on new cars, they would be spending less than 20% of the money that they raise from motorists on our roads. This is so totally scandalous, and of course potholes now are not just a national embarrassment, they're dangerous. You now have to, when you're driving along, you actually have to circumnavigate them. You're driving to our local airport from here, for example, Humberside Airport, you actually have to drive round quite deep potholes, and a small car like this little Fiat with little tiny wheels, it can be very serious. I know I've spent nearly £1,000 in the last 3 years on tyres and suspension that have been damaged directly by poor roads and potholes, and I'm sure you're the same. And the irony is, all the money that we spend, and we spend a lot on this kind of thing, they then take VAT on. So they take 20% of everything that we pay for the damage which they cause through the appalling neglect of our roads. And of course, they spend £1 billion a month on overseas aid, £1 billion a month on the EU, and of course when you drive on the continent you'll wonder at their wonderful roads. They're much better than ours, and of course the irony is that we are paying for them. So what I would do is I counsel Doris that you take a lot of money off motorists, we're all voters, put some money back into the roads, stop stealing our money and squandering it in other ways. Your first duty is to us. You take money from motorists, you put it back into the roads. We don't want your beastly £600 billion railway to nowhere, high-speed rail. We don't want all the kind of nonsense that you squander money on. Please bring it back into our own communities and get it right for us. And incidentally, if you think you're being represented by people like the AA or the RAC, you're not. They don't represent you at all. They're part of the establishment. All their senior executives are interested in these fat cat salaries, OBEs and knighthoods. Check them out. They're all scoundrels as well. There's only one group of people actually looking out for you, really, and that's the Alliance of British Drivers. The Alliance of British Drivers, they're looking out for you. They're small, but they're doing their best, and they could do with your support worth Googling them up. But I'm fed up, I know you're fed up, and it's time that this government did something about it, or we're just going to have to band together and not pay this vehicle excise duty until they've sorted themselves out. They expect an MOT from us to keep our cars in good order. We expect some sort of commitment from them to keep our roads in order. Have a word with your MP. Don't email him, don't write to him, because he doesn't care about you. Go round to his house and chuck a bucket of cold water over him. And he might start to listen. These dreadful people that represent us, who don't care anything about us, might actually start taking some notice. It's well overdue.